It is my current goal to beat the game of Pokémon Yellow using a new Pokémon every single week in a solo challenge out of the 151 Pokédex entries within the game of Pokémon Yellow. And while some of those people might be impossible, like another bug Pokémon, Caterpie, luckily Venonat can in fact complete the game. And we've got something going on in this one for sure, because we have our fourth and final base level bug Pokemon for this game. This is the fourth installment of it. We're going to have a couple more of the evolved bugs later on, but for now, this is the last time that we're going to have a little beginner guy. And this particular Pokemon starts off with a move of Tackle and Disable. In this first fight, I'm going to have to just sort of stick with Tackle. The big reason being that Disable works differently in this generation. If I use it, it could hit Tackle, but it also could hit Tail Whip, and then he would just tackle me every single turn, and we would be dead for sure. So luckily, yes, even though it lowers my defense, he uses Tail Whip a couple of times and does throw by doing an extra one instead of just attacking me. And therefore, we get to sort of scrape by, which is good, because really, I think the best possible scenario for this Pokemon would potentially be to go up against the Jolteon team. There is a small possibility that the Flareon team could weirdly be better for Venonat, but I'm not going to second guess myself now. It's a little too late. Now, we are about 10 minutes into this game. I'm finally level 11, and I'm going to go up against the rival again. Feels maybe potentially a little foolish. Level 9 Spearow does hit kind of hard when you're a bug, and so you go into the Eevee portion of the fight considerably weaker, not just in HP, but at least attack and or defense anytime you go up against the Spearow. It's going to hit you with a Growl, it's going to hit you with a Leer for sure, and of course it's going to hit you with a Peck, because why wouldn't it? It's super effective. But I will say, considering that I felt that the level was a little low for that fight, we actually made it pretty far. We actually got really close. I did contemplate whether or not I needed to level up one more time, but I thought, well, we got close. Maybe we can actually do it. Maybe we can just finish that fight. Now, one of the biggest problems that this Pokemon also suffers from in the early game is the fact that Supersonic is so just inconsistent. The fact that the accuracy percentage on that is 55 means that we took a lot of hits in the beginning. We are going into this next fight with less HP, and so of course, one Supersonic and it doesn't affect him whatsoever. So we're fine. Okay, we had to restart. I still feel like there's a way to do it. I just need to not have it fail 3 times in a row. All right, so I feel like I just said let's not do that, and it did. So as always, I take a lesson from my own book, which is I say, okay, I have failed 3 times. Let's come back. So I go do one more level, and then I decide to fight the rival at level 12. So far, we are at perfect health. We've actually had very good luck. The speed tie actually does come in quite clutch with this, just because we're not taking damage before we even get our very first Supersonic off. So that one, it is incredible sometimes how much just one level can make an honestly huge difference. So that gives me a little bit more confidence. I'm going to skip all of Viridian Forest. I don't think you need to see a lot of tackle against some bugs. And trust me, we're going to have some longer sections coming up in a bit. Now, going up against Brock at level 15, this felt a little low, but I was already over 20 minutes in, and I was thinking, like, yeah, obviously, a lot of your base Pokemon don't really have amazing times. They typically take quite a while, but I was convinced that, we have one base bug, rather, in particular, that cannot beat the game. And we have another one that, by my general rules, it cannot complete the game. Can its moves get it to that point? Technically, like yes or no, but like for sure, because of like the no items clause, it definitely cannot get to the end of the game. No items, no anything. It just simply is too weak. That's Weedle, obviously. But then like you had Paris, and Paris kind of gave me a sense of some confidence in the latter two bug Pokemon, right? They very clearly have better evolutions, and so therefore their base Pokemon should also be better. Now, at level 15, we got so close. I felt really confident in that. I went out and I level grind a little bit more. Just once again, I just did one level. Now, if I really wanted to take the time and not mess around with going up against Brock or even my rival until I was much higher levels, like I could have saved myself some time. I could have waited until like level 14 or 15 to go up against the rival. Then I could have waited until 19 to go up against Brock and should have had an honestly very easy time once I learned Confusion. However, my fear is that if I wait that long, I just don't know if I can make up that time in the back half. And I don't think that you want to witness that, and neither do I. But even though we are now at technically ×8 speed, because it's already 4 times speed and I'm doubling this fight, we do eventually make it through the Brock fight at level 16. Now, at Mount Moon, I don't have any issue. I'm skipping over that visually just because there's a lot to talk about later on. And so we get to Cerulean at level 21. This is going to be a problem, however, because 21 is not strong enough to get past the Spearow. Our common enemy, Spearow, has returned. So the only thing that really makes sense is to go into the gym and see if we can level up at all. And just sort of see if there's a way to... I'm hoping that we don't have to try to go up against Misty just yet. I don't think Venonat is ready for Starmie. I think Staryu, I thought about that last second. I think Staryu we can take. But what is also a problem is the fact that I got a fair amount of damage there. I decide to go heal up. I think about whether or not I want to fight any wild Pokemon before fighting this Goldeen. And I kind of waste a minute, which, you know, in the long run isn't really going to make a difference. But I do go up against this Goldeen, and it is tough. It knows Peck, just like our enemy Spearow, and luckily we make it through. I get the move of Poison Powder, which right now does feel like it's going to be a better move for us. Again, Disable is very, let's say, inconsistent. I feel like maybe that's the best descriptor for that move. Now, we're going to take a real gamble here. Once again, took a moment to consider our options, kind of looked at everything. We don't learn anything important or interesting for a hot minute here, so it's not really going to help us in either fight. We could potentially try and level up, you know, as is always the issue or concern. But when you get to this section in the game, sometimes you can get very stuck, I think, if you're not careful. And I think that's sort of where we're at. This might be the first real argument for going up to level 19 before Brock. Because then by the time you get here, you are stuck between a rock, your rival, and a hard place, the gym leader. So that is sort of where we're struggling at this point. We've hit level 22. Again, we could kind of grind against the wild local Pokemon, but they are very low level compared to where we're at now. So that's going to be a while to get anywhere with it. And of course, we do miss with our very first Supersonic against the rival. Not very helpful. So we're in a big world of hurt here. We can't really take on the gym leader, and we can't really take on our rival either. And we're level 22, which I don't think typically being at level 22 is a struggle for most Pokemon at this point in the game. And I think it's pretty easy to get them to this level by this point. And typically, if you're level 22 of pretty much anything by this portion of the game, you should be able to cruise through at least one of these two fights. Luckily, we make it through the Spearow, but we are very low. We are just painfully low on health. And I don't know why I went for tackle instead of confusion. Confusion should have been better there. I don't know if that was a misclick. You know, like I don't know if like I didn't hit up twice and I was just kind of going too fast. I don't know what the mental process was there. At this point, it's been a minute since I've recorded it and also since I've really wanted to think about it. So we have yet another reset, and we are going up against the Spearow, ending around the same-ish amount of power. I don't know if the Supersonic is really helpful. We still got 2 accuracy debuffs going into this fight. So we do lose to the Rattata this time, but we're making it further and further each time, right? I mean, at least it feels that way. I feel like we're making more progress, and we're getting a little lucky with the fact that Spearow is going for Fury Attack. Because of the fact that Peck is super effective, it technically should do more damage, but I think just because of the overall kind of area that Fury Attack can cover, I guess the AI goes for that move at times because a 5-hit could potentially do more. But it's not as common, I guess, but still, then you get moments like that where you just get hit and you get hit and you get hit, and like the Supersonics don't hit, the Supersonics don't work, and it just simply is too much, I think. So eventually you kind of decide, all right, it's the time that we need to bite the bullet. It's the time where we go in and we just grind and we get ourselves 2 more levels, and then it feels like Misty is the team to beat. There's only 2 Pokemon, and Starmie, I would say, is the strongest of everything we're going to fight here in this immediate area. So if we can make it through Starmie, we should be able to make it through anything. Well, at least until the next big challenge, right? So after a few resets, we get here and we are, again, still at level 24. I didn't do any more grinding between any of these fights, but we are about to hit 50 minutes, 15 resets. So as you can see, things are going swimmingly, which I hate to say that at the water gym. That certainly doesn't feel, I don't know, maybe it's topical, who knows. Either way, we're just kind of throwing every piece of spaghetti that we can at the wall. I'm using poison powder, I'm using supersonic, and luckily we do hit with our supersonics. And because it doesn't get enough hardens off, eventually Tackle takes us over the edge and we get a victory against Misty. It is a huge moment for us, a sigh of relief perhaps, but also we still have the rival. Now, luckily, because we've leveled up a few times here at this point, it does make this fight considerably easier. We have made it to the Eevee, mostly no issue. We are still kind of lacking in some HP format, and we're not really doing a lot of damage, though luckily Supersonic once again comes in pretty clutch, and we get a victory against this rival, which means we get to move on. And move on we do to the SS Anne. First and foremost, you're going to notice a time skip, and there's going to be another one in a little bit. I took the time to level grind against every single opponent between Nugget Bridge and Bill, and then I'm going to do the same here on SS Anne. At the end of the day, perhaps not taking the extra time in the beginning of the game will make this sort of section a little bit more mandatory, which is, I don't really know which one's going to be better, or really if I should have done both. Who really knows with this Pokemon? But I skip around a bunch and we move beyond this. Now you will see that we are just about an hour 10 and I am still at 15 resets, but level 32. We've leveled up a lot, now level 33. Thank you for the extra experience, Spearow. The big thing here too is, like, you're going to notice one of the big detriments to Venonat is something that could have been pretty helpful for this Pokemon on this run is a move that we always pick up here on the SSN that would have really, I think, made a world of difference on this run, which is the move of Body Slam. This is one of the rare occasions where Body Slam is not teachable to a Pokemon that we're talking about. And again, even rarer, a time where we probably really need it. But either way, we have made our way through SS Sand. We have gone through all of those trainers. I do not fight any of the trainers in Surge's gym. We are at an hour and 12. I really don't want to need to fight every single trainer I come across. Although getting hit with Thunderbolt and then instantly going down to Mega Punch like that. Uh-oh. Folks, this is the first time where I am not going to be able to tell Surge that he is trash. This is a little embarrassing of a showing, I'm going to admit. I went for the Psychic move again just because I know that Psychic moves are so good, but really kind of overlooking the fact that honestly, if I just tackled my way through there, I think we would have won that one, which is why I do go back a third time. It's sometimes hard to break out of certain types of habits, and even though Tackle is only a 35 power move, his defense is pretty low compared to his special, and my attack is not awful. I mean, it's on point with his attack, so that's got to be worth something, right? So luckily, with some confusion and some poison powders and also not taking a critical hit, we finally make it through on the third attempt against Surge. Now, we do skip ahead a lot. It takes us a while to get through the rock tunnel. It's, if anything, really just a matter of having to be really careful about who we're going up against and when, and needing to heal a lot. Because I don't really have anything that's super effective against anything within this cave. But luckily, we are going to learn the move Sleep Powder here, which will be pretty crucial for a little while. But the thing to consider is that basically everything here, not only am I like not strong against, but they are quite strong against me. Now, yeah, not the Jigglypuff, not the Pidgey, not the Meowth, right? Those ones are fine. But there are a lot of rock type moves in here, right? You've got some rock throw users, and we've got some confusion users. And I know that I can also use that move, but remember, I am bug poison. And in this game, that poison typing is going to be probably the biggest detriment to this run. Well, that and mixed with the fact that bug Pokemon are weak to quite a few different types as well, and the fact that my stats aren't really all that great, and the fact that I don't really learn any great moves, and the fact that I'm going to do my best to beat this game without using Mimic. Because I'll tell you right now, if I was using Mimic, we would certainly not struggle through about at least a third of this game. But I am determined to get through this game with the poison Pokemon specifically without using Mimic. I think it can be done. And am I going to regret those words? Yes, of course I will. Of course I will. This game sucks for Venonat. And I feel like maybe, even though I only have 17 resets, maybe it's not apparent. Yeah, let's have a quick little montage of clips here. Here is some stuff. There's some stuff out of order. I'll censor the time and the attempts just so when we get to the end, you won't have, too much information. But yeah, man, Venonat, I get it. Maybe I should have been a little bit higher than level 53, but I also feel like with a move like Psychic that is super effective, I shouldn't be getting one-shot by like level 44s or anything like that. And unfortunately, it does happen, though, a lot. And so therefore, I have to go up against Koga and Giovanni and Lance over and over and over again. And I did decide that by doing this montage, it was going to help with making the end of the video a little bit faster. I could just sort of showcase back to back to back how tough it was to get through some of these fights. But it does lead to moments where eventually you figure a way through, or you remember that you have Sleep Powder, for example. And then that means that you can have much more health going into your third and or fourth Pokemon within his team. Now, did this work out instantly? No. Is it also something that I did forget for a while? Also, yes. But basically, it's just one of those things where then there were a few rounds in there that I kind of showed some of the end results of, where I would still try and go for Sleep Powder, but sometimes, they would still it would miss, or they would instantly wake up, or something. Something would happen and I would still lose. But either way, we do eventually defeat Koga, and we get to move on to the Silphco and go up against our rival again. Now, at this point, we are level 59, so I really am hoping that by this point, at this level, that this Pokemon can make it through a somewhat easier fight. But in all fairness, this fight can still be quite difficult. In fact, here's a case in point, right? I could have made it through this, I would say, fairly easily, but the burn is pretty devastating, especially for Venonat. Basically, at this point, because I don't have a boosted special, the only thing that I really kind of have going for me is my attack. And so therefore, if I get burned and it cuts my attack, I'm kind of in danger. Like, Psychic is really not going to get me through most of these fights, unfortunately. So I do need to be able to maintain some usage of Double Edge, which at this point is what I have replaced Tackle with, just so that I have something, because obviously Body Slam isn't around. The downside to it, of course, is that it does damage to me, but Tackle was just far too weak for Venonat at this late in the game. We needed something to give us a little bit of an edge, and I just had to try and find the balance at times to figure out how that move could work and benefit us, But eventually we do get through that second fight with the rival. Luckily, he was not a major issue or wall like he can be for other Pokemon. And so we get to move forward through Team Rocket. And luckily, this is one of those moments where the Psychic move has once again come in handy. There have been times so far today where the Psychic moves have not done us well, but going up against Team Rocket Pokemon typically is kind of a surefire way with Psychic to just sort of cruise right through. And we do that basically to just get directly to Giovanni. And this team is considerably easier than anything we've kind of gone up against so far. At this point, I think maybe the only thing that we had just as an easy of a time with was Erica. So, that's a good sign, I suppose. Really, at the end of the day, it's just further proof about how anything that has a poison typing, whether it's their main or like a secondary typing, that is case in point. Psychic will, it'll kill it. If it's got poison, Psychic will do it in. Maybe we should be letting the exterminators of the world know. No, wait, stop. That doesn't make any sense. I was thinking to myself that the rats were the poison and we were using Psychic to get rid of the things, but I'm realizing that maybe I was thinking of bugs. Oh, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how I messed that one up, but that is kind of too good of a blooper to, I think, take out. So I'll leave that one in as I die twice to Sabrina. But luckily, this is one of those moments where, again, like Double Edge is something that does damage to me, but if I can get, that was so close. Like, that's why I didn't include the Sabrina fights in the montage. Like, I felt really good about these fights. There was just a little bit more of like a luck issue versus, not having enough steam to get through those fights. Especially for moves that are obviously kind of, one tap for me. But now that's a crazy situation. I don't know why I'm choosing Psychic there. I'm going to point that one out. I noticed that one earlier while doing some of the cuts. And I to this moment, to this day, don't know why when I went up against that particular run, I just said, yeah, start using Psychic. Not only was it not effective, but their special is so high. Either way, eventually I learned from my mistake and I put them to sleep and used Double Edge. And even if it does do damage to me, I am coming out on top. We then therefore get to move on to Blaine's team, and this one could be quite bad. As a bug-type Pokemon, really as a bug poison type, I've got a lot of things that I'm very weak to. And we have a real issue here where their special is very high and mine is not, so they could easily just hit me for so much damage. Luckily, I am outspeeding them because I'm at level 68 at this point, and because of that, I am able to defeat Blaine in one go. But that really could have gone really any kind of way, to be honest with you. Now, here's where I skip over all of the montage scenes there with all the kind of extra additional turns and resets. Yikes, unfortunate. We are now at 2 hours, 41 minutes, and 35 resets. Not looking good for this little bug, but, you know, obviously we're going to have some more resets later, but maybe we can get through this one pretty easily, right? At this point, we've gone up against this team a lot of times, and you have to be really careful. You really can't take time to try and put him to sleep or anything like that. You just kind of have to attack, and you got to take the luck. Hopefully there's going to be some guard specs in there. Hopefully there's going to be some misses. And when those things line up, Psychic can get through basically every single Pokemon on his team, which is good because we don't have anything that's really that effective against them. We could use Mega Drain, but I don't think it would do enough, at least at this stage. I don't know. It's possible, but I'm not going to go back and double check. I'll be honest with you. This is another Pokemon that, kind of like the Weedle thing, I doubt we'll do this one again. This one is rough around the edges. I'm okay with knowing that perhaps this one is just out of my reach in competitive style. But Venonat does defeat the rival here. This time, one take is all it takes. No resets, no anything, no struggles. I mean, we got down to 46 health, but, you know, we got there. Now, here's going to be another interesting cut, because I'm going to walk through that door and let's think about that for a second. Running the clock back a little bit, you'll see that we went from 2 hours, 48 minutes to 3 hours and 30 minutes. And now with 49 resets, dude, I absolutely should have picked up Mimic. I don't know what in this green earth made me say, you know what? Yeah, let's skip out on Mimic. Let's get through this without it. I can do it. We don't need it. I'm so powerful, blah, blah, blah. Look at your time, dog. Look at your resets. Think of the children. Your wife and children haven't seen you in days. I don't have either, but I feel like metaphorically, I think we all know that they are waiting for me to come home from this war. They're looking out the window like it's a, you know, ancient black and white film. When will he return from the war? I do miss him. I don't know if the homestead could last without him. Dear Margaret, I am writing you from the front lines. I don't know why I'm British now, but, you know, I guess that's probably what I would have sounded like in the old times. But in the old times, I wouldn't have had Pokemon, and I don't know if that would have been better or worse. I think it would have been worse because I really love Pokemon, but also, God, my stress probably would have been better, huh? Anyway, we eventually get back here at level 86. What happened was I just kept going, and I kept resetting. And eventually I just said, all right, you know what? I'm just going to take the blackout, and I'm going to start from the beginning again. I started it at level 82, got up to level 86, and then I just said, let's black out and let's try it again from the top. And, you know, I guess blackout training is fine, you know, but eventually you just sort of take the hit, you take the lumps, and you move on. And speaking of moving on, we are moving on to Bruno. Luckily, like, Bruno can be tough. I want to be clear. I know that a lot of us kind of dunk on Bruno often because I think it's pretty easy to. Kind of like Surge, he is 9 out of 10 times not difficult to get past. But there are some things here that could be pretty devastating at times, right? If you're a normal type Pokemon, obviously any of the fighting type moves from Hitmonlee or from Machamp could take you out pretty heavily, pretty quickly. If you're a Pokemon like Venonat, Rock Slide or Earthquake could also be quite damaging. Fire Punch from Hitmonchan could also rock you to your core. So there are opportunities for Bruno to still beat you pretty soundly, even with a Pokemon that is bad when he is not necessarily a formidable opponent. So I will give him some credit for once. But today, he is still not good enough to get past a Venonat. Level 87. Yeah, I know. Listen, we don't have to talk about that part. But level 87, Venonat is still good. He still can get things done. He can still mostly get through a Gengar. Kind of. Oops. Well, okay, listen, I will say there are times where you look at something and you go, surely I would be doing more. 31 levels above a Pokemon, and you still kind of can't get it done is unfortunate. When your power is boosted and it should be easy, but it still doesn't one-shot them. Oh, God. Well, unfortunately, the fact that I got paralyzed is devastating here. I don't know why I take the time to go through some of these moves. I'm paralyzed. I should just hit Psychic. I think my biggest fear was that if it didn't one-shot, that maybe she would use a potion or something. There was a lot of, I think, just sort of panic by that point. Like, as memory serves, I just remember feeling a little bit of panic in that moment of going, I'm past 3.5 hours. How am I still struggling? Speaking of still struggling, I did have a couple resets here against Lance, which I did cut past just because, again, I showed a couple of them actually earlier, I believe. Maybe I didn't. I don't remember everything that went into the montage, but I feel like by this point, if you've seen Venonat faint 7, 8, 9, 10 times to Lance, then you've seen them all, right? Plus, I'll be honest, doing the montage earlier was a little bit more to protect my own peace as well. Like, it was great for an editing standpoint because you can see just how much footage I had to sift through. Typically, I kind of start recording on and off in the bits where I know that there's going to be interesting things. But sometimes I just say, I'll just let it ride. Especially if I'm, putting on like a podcast or something like that in the background. I don't want to have to try to remember to click a button or something like that. So it's kind of all over the place on how I choose to do something. But once I realized that I had nearly 4 hours of footage, I thought, okay, take a chunk of time, cut down real quick the little bits and pieces, and then move past it. Like, get rid of all the other fluff. You don't need to get into these other things. And it was better for me because I got to show all those early on, and then I didn't have to relive all the frustration here at the end. Because I actually feel kind of easy breezy now doing this kind of discussion about this final fight against Lance. It got really close. I mean, look at that. I got burned. I have 39 health down to 23. I mean, this is outrageous. 7 health at level 87. I feel like it shouldn't have been that close. That was down to the wire. But also the fact that I even survived the fire blast is probably in and of itself something to mention. And something to mention is that we are finally, after 3 hours and 40 minutes, we are on to the champions team. Oh God, I can't believe we're finally here. I spent so much time just sort of sitting there thinking about what my opportunities were. I realized that looked like I just sort of fallen asleep or something like that. But genuinely, I got so concerned about getting to this point and then having the same issues that I really said, okay, let's think about this strategy. Started looking forward to the future, and it didn't matter because Alakazam took me out. So it is what it is. But also during that long pause at that first attempt, and also in between these two things, I cut out some time there of spending some time in the menu. I had recognized that there was one big thing that I was missing. And you might see it now on the left-hand side of the screen in my Learn set. That's right, I realized that even if I could get Alakazam to sleep, I did not have a physical attacking move that could take Alakazam out. It would take too long to try and special attack my way through that Pokemon. So luckily, that was actually good for me because it would mean that I would have less of a chance to lose later on. I know that sounds weird, but it set me up for future success. As you can see here, I am now to the 4th Pokemon on his team, and before he got that attack off, I was at 50% of my health. And luckily, because this is a part water type, Mega Drain is doing a decent amount to get me some of that health back. Luckily, Ninetales goes to sleep on the first try, and at this point, we have to be very careful because it is going to go for Pin Missile, which is super effective, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. So we have an opportunity here to do something great, and look at that, 3 hours, 43 minutes, 52 attempts. I'll take it. I'll be honest, it sucks to see. I hated this one. I hated it so much with a burning passion. It's why I put other videos in between when I filmed this and when I put it out. I was so mad at the end of that recording session. I was just, oh God. I didn't think anything could be worse than Zubat, and I was wrong. And it was this guy, Venonat. I don't think I'm ever coming back to you. I'm done. But 3 hours, 43 minutes, level 88. We get through it. We take the wins every day. We did it without using Mimic. Should I have used it? Probably. Could have finished the game at least an hour early, I would imagine. But it doesn't matter. I stuck to my guns. I stuck to my principles, and we are here now. I hope that my torture and my anguish was entertaining for you. And if it was, please consider giving this video a like, a share, a comment, perhaps on what Pokemon you think would be the worst solo challenge to do in this game or any other game. And then after that, just know that you're doing a lot to help me and any kind of small creator that you do that for. It really helps out every time you do something like that. It boosts us in that great old algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week for another solo challenge in Pokemon Yellow.